John F. Kennedy. He was a liberal, but he was a good American. And in fact, I think if John F. Kennedy were to join the Democratic Party today, they'd kick him out because he'd be too conservative for him. But I'm talking about, we have seen the left, the leftists, the Marxists, the progressives have taken over the party, and they are pushing an agenda, and they are using their pet causes. Really what I'm saying, I guess, is that all these pet causes they are pushing are acts really of rebellion against a sovereign creator God. And the liberal issue is the camouflage. They make it a liberal thing, but behind it is a spiritual warfare. There is a rebellion against God. Pick the topic, and you can see that it's a spiritual issue, whether it's abortion. Abortion is the obvious one. Evolution is an obvious one. But then we get into this other stuff that they're pushing right now, the transgenderism, the changing names of everything, and these are all aimed at the same thing. That is to, satanically inspired, is to try to take down Christianity and minimize it, and eventually force it out of the public domain. So what I wanted to do was, we're going to, over the next few days, next few sessions, I want to address each of these issues and try to show how their positions actually contradict what the Scripture is saying, whether they're talking overpopulation or animal rights. All of these things are really their acts of rebellion against God. But I wanted to go back. I know last week we got into a little discussion. I actually got some positive feedback from a couple of people on this. And I wanted to kind of touch on it real quickly this morning before we moved on. I talked last week about how what they have done is they have co-opted words. They've changed the definition of words. They give innocuous names to things in order to hide their agenda and what they're planning to do. I'm going to rely on you today, Fred. You got your tablet with you? I'm going to have you look up some definitions for us, and we're going to take a look at a few things. And while you're doing that, I went back and looked up, and I tried to remember some different names of things that I recall that really are designed to mask the true intention of what they're doing. The first one that popped in my mind was an organization called Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood. Their whole objective, ostensibly, is to allow you to plan your parenthood. Really, what's it all about? It's all about abortion. It's about killing babies. In fact, as you recall, Planned Parenthood was established by a woman named Margaret Sanger. She was, her whole objective was to cut down on the black population. Her objective was for the blacks' babies to be aborted because they felt that the black population was an inferior race. They wanted to try to cut them down. And what's interesting is there was a lot of correspondence at the time going on between Margaret Sanger and her group and the Nazis as they were coming to power in Nazi Germany. They took her ideas and they used them. They expanded them in order to create the model society and create the perfect man, all that sort of thing. So Planned Parenthood seems innocuous, but what's behind it is extraordinarily evil. We have other things like, here's one. How about the American Civil Liberties Union? Sounds innocuous. Yeah, I believe in civil liberties. But their civil liberties are designed for a particular type of people. Those who are leftists and liberals, and they promote those causes for the most part. Another one, National Education Association. That sounds pretty innocuous as well. But I read a book many years ago. I cannot recall the name of the author, but it was called NEA, the Trojan Horse of American Education. And he made the case that the whole objective of National Education Association was to create a bunch of socialistically educated people so they'd all fit in nicely to the godless socialist society that they were trying to create. So that was interesting. Now, Fred, I'm going to have you look up a word for me and define it. And I'm going to show you just one more aspect of how they've changed the name to hide what they're actually doing. And that name is Republic. Look up Republic and give me a definition if you can find it. Right. So supreme power is held by who, theoretically? The people. All right, now, give me the official name for China. China's, there you go. All right. So, you tell me when the last time was that the Chinese people had any say or power in their government. But they're going after them right now. Yeah. Well, right. You go back to Animal Farm, where the concept was all are created equal, but some are more equal than others. So, all right. So, this People's Republic of China, where the people theoretically would have power to run the government, between 40 to 80 million people were killed as a part of their cultural revolution to create the perfect Marxist government. So, and you're going to see a pattern here. All right. Let's look at what's the official name of North Korea. It is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. And they are responsible, according to the word, what we believe, they are responsible for the deaths of 4.6 million people who do not conform. Where supposedly the power rests with the people, well, it doesn't. Okay? I don't think they do. I don't think they do. Well, and you'll also notice in all of these so-called republics, I mean, they have what they will call, what do you call it? I don't know what you call them, congresses or whatever. But only certain people are allowed to be in it. You have to be a member of the party and all that. Exactly. For most of these. How about, want to look up East Germany? What was the old name for East Germany? The estimate I have seen is 4.6 million. Yeah. That's a pretty high percentage, isn't it? Go back and remember what happened in Cambodia? Cambodia had a population of 7 million. And at the end of the war, the Khmer Rouge took it over. And they named, I don't remember the exact name, but it had something Republic in the name. And they are responsible for estimates of 3 million. I mean, you're getting close to half the population. And Pol Pot basically said, if we have to kill everybody except for the last million to create our government, we're willing to do it. So if you go to East Germany, I'll just move forward with this. Their name was the German Democratic Republic. See the pattern? 850,000 they're saying. 140 have recorded to have been killed trying to escape from East Germany to West Germany. So again, Republic is the common denominator. The old name for Soviet Russia, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. And Stalin made Hitler look like a Sunday school teacher with the number of people he killed. Numbers are close to 61 million that he deliberately got rid of so that he could create his utopian, Marxist, atheistic, godless society. And Vietnam, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, and I think the numbers we got for them are 3.8 million, and we have also the Republic of Cuba. They're the best of the bunch. They've only got 73,000. So there's a pattern here with this use of the word republic. And again, like I have said, that the objective is to confuse, to hide, to mask, to camouflage what their true intentions are. So they'll use these words, they'll redefine things so that what their actual intentions are not clear to the average person who doesn't pay attention to things. So today, we're going to focus on, I think, the foundation for the Marxist worldview, and that is going to be evolution. But I'm not looking at it so much. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. And for me, Genesis 1:1 says it all. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And that's the foundation. Everything else from there is based on that. But I'm going to look at it more as how the leftists are using the thing of evolution to create their godless society. And what I've got here, first of all, as a starting point, I've got a video I'm going to show you rather than going through all the trouble of putting it up on the screen, I'm just going to turn my screen around and turn up the volume. One thing I've mentioned to you is that there are certain places I have discovered that I like to go to for information, and one of them is this place by a guy named Dennis Prager. He does this Prager University thing. He has 5-minute videos. There are like 500 of them, or just 400 of them. They're just little short 5-minute videos explaining. They're very conservative. Prager is a conservative Jew. He's not a Christian. So he comes from that perspective, but he does firmly believe in the Judeo-Christian foundation of our country. So I got one here I'm going to show you real quick, just kind of give you a flavor for what he's got. If you're ever sitting at the doctor's office or whatever and waiting to get in after 3 hours worth of waiting, you can maybe pull one of these up and watch a few of these. And they're kind of interesting, and I like them. I'll put one up here. I'm just going to full screen it, turn it around, turn it on, and we'll take a look and see what they've got, what this one is about. Let's find it here. Hopefully we're all close enough where we can see this. Flip it around, get her started for you. Y'all see it? All right, I can't see it. What's going on here? Is it playing? All right, I'll come back around. Well, you'll get over it in a minute. Let's start it over. We'll try it one more time.
By its initials SETI, an ambitious project launched in the 1960s, was sure to turn up something soon. With a vast radio telescopic network, scientists listened for signals that resembled coded intelligence. But as the years passed, the silence from the universe was deafening. As of 2014, researchers have discovered precisely bupkis, nada, zilch, which is to say zero followed by an infinite number of zeros. What happened? As our knowledge of the universe increased, it became clear that there were, in fact, far more factors necessary for life, let alone intelligent life, than Sagan supposed. His 2 parameters grew to 10, then 20, and then 50, which meant that the number of potentially life-supporting planets decreased accordingly. The number dropped to a few thousand planets and kept on plummeting. Even SETI proponents acknowledged the problem. Peter Schenkel wrote in a 2006 piece for Skeptical Inquirer, a magazine that strongly affirms atheism, "In light of new findings and insights, we should quietly admit that the early estimates may no longer be tenable." Today, there are more than 200 known parameters necessary for a planet to support life, every single one of which must be perfectly met or the whole thing falls apart. For example, without a massive gravity-rich planet like Jupiter nearby to draw away asteroids, Earth would be more like an interstellar dartboard than the verdant orb that it is. Simply put, the odds against life in the universe are astonishing. Yet, here we are, not only existing, but talking about existing. What can account for it? Can every one of those many parameters have been perfectly met by accident? At what point is it fair to admit that it is science itself that suggests that we cannot be the result of random forces? Doesn't assuming that an intelligence created these perfect conditions in fact require far less faith than believing that a life-sustaining Earth just happened to beat the inconceivable odds? But wait, there's more. The fine-tuning necessary for life to exist on a planet is nothing compared with the fine-tuning required for the universe to exist at all. For example, astrophysicists now know that the values of the four fundamental forces, gravity, the electromagnetic force, and the strong and weak nuclear forces, were determined less than 1/1,000,000th of a second after the Big Bang. Alter any one of these four values ever so slightly, and the universe as we know it could not exist. For instance, if the ratio between the strong nuclear force and the electromagnetic force had been off by the tiniest fraction of the tiniest inconceivable fraction, then no stars could have formed at all. Multiply that single parameter by all the other necessary conditions, and the odds against the universe existing are so heart-stoppingly astronomical that the notion that it all just happened defies common sense. It would be like tossing a coin and having it come up heads 10 quintillion times in a row. I don't think so. Fred Hoyle, the astronomer who coined the term Big Bang, said that his atheism was greatly shaken by these developments. One of the world's most renowned theoretical physicists, Paul Davies, has said that the appearance of design is overwhelming. Even the late Christopher Hitchens, one of atheism's most aggressive proponents, conceded that without question the fine-tuning argument was the most powerful argument of the other side. Oxford University professor of mathematics, Dr. John Lennox, has said, the more we get to know about our universe, the more the hypothesis that there is a creator gains in credibility as the best explanation of why we are here. The greatest miracle of all time is the universe. It is the miracle of all miracles, one that inescapably points to something or someone beyond itself. I'm Eric Metaxas for Prager University.
That's just examples of many videos that I find very interesting and illuminating on a lot of topics. It just keeps falling apart on me no matter what I do. Huh? I really am. There we go. All right. So, it is interesting that the two biggies, the two big books that the Marxists base all of their theory on were published within 8 years of each other. The first one was Darwin's On the Origin of the Species. And then 8 years later, Marx published Das Kapital, and both of which together have formed the basis for their worldview. Marx was a strong admirer of Darwin and what he wrote, and from his perspective, it provided the scientific rationale to deny creation and the creator. According to Darwin or to Marx, he said communism goes hand in hand with Darwin's theory of evolution because the leftists want, or because communists want government to be your God, and for that to happen, they need to destroy the concept of God. Another quote, evolution is one of the strongest tools of Marxism because if they can convince you that you came from a monkey, it's much easier to convince you that God does not exist. The Nazis took this a step further, and remember, the Nazis, they took a lot of what they were doing, a lot of their beliefs were refined from Margaret Sanger and the others who were peddling this false science of, the name just escaped my mind, I had it there. I'm having a terrible time this morning. Anyways, this idea that there are more valuable humans and less valuable humans. They themselves were convinced that evolution had taken place, and that they believed, and they actually acted upon this, that the concept of natural selection should be actively aided. So their belief was, if we want evolution to really work and get the kind of society we want, we got to get rid of some of the middle links that are involved in this. And so they instituted measures. First, they got rid of the handicap, and they went to the Jews, and they went to other racial groups, because they're trying to create their society that they wanted. Now, in the United States, I recall that a lot of this stuff was started in the 60s. I know, Fred, you're my age. The other guys are older. But I remember when Madalyn Murray O'Hair was heavily at work, and she was doing her wickedness. And I was in the 4th grade, which would have put me about 1968 or so. And prayer had already been eliminated from the schools by court order. And in my particular classroom, in my school, we had the main library, and then the teacher had her own little library in the room of selected things. And I remember going over to the little shelf where her books were at, and I was there with a classmate, and he's looking around, his eyes fall upon a couple of Bibles. He gets all upset. He grabs those Bibles, runs to the teacher, and says, "These are not supposed to be here. You need to get rid of these." She blew him off and said, "I'll worry about that. Put it back on the shelf." But that's when things began. In the 60s was when I think the shift turned, and they began to actively try to destroy the influence of God in our society so that they could put forth their own view of things. The Nobel Prize winner Alexander Solzhenitsyn's word, he said, if I were asked today to formulate as concisely as possible the main cause of the ruinous revolution that swallowed up some 60 million of our Russian people, I could not put it more accurately than to repeat, men have forgotten God. That's why all this has happened. I guess I've run out of time more quickly than I thought I would. But evolution, it's a spiritual battle. I think it's the grandfather of all the things they're trying to push on us, and they are camouflaging it as a political issue. When they start arguing separation of church and state and all these other things, freedom from religion, that's what their goal is. They want to get rid of the religion so they can then do the things they want to do without any conscience over the things over their objectives. And I just follow up with this one quote here. What's the ultimate goal? Is to conform Christianity to their pagan demands or face incarceration. American progressives have co-opted every elite institution. You name one they haven't gotten their fingers in and ruined. Schools, government, the media, Hollywood, the arts, even at an increasing rate, many conservative organizations. What's worse is that progressivism has, like a deadly cancer, fully metastasized into what passes for the church in America. There's a great falling away, and apostasy reigns supreme. The secular left doesn't merely have a disagreement with Christianity. These are not people with whom one may reason or compromise or even disagree. They are dedicated to evil. They demand nothing less than the abolition of the biblical worldview and the destruction of Christ's followers right along with it. So, any comments or questions? I'm going to... Yeah, I saw that. I've always been impressed when the powers that be at these various schools declare you're not going to pray before games and stuff like that. I found several cases where members of both teams would go out into the field and they'd pray anyways, in defiance of what their leadership has. Mm-hmm. Right. I do too. Did you get the, there was an article that was on, I heard him talking about it on the radio this week. I briefly saw an article on AOL or someplace where I saw it, where this university, they were going into these plants and begging forgiveness from the plants for climate change and all that kind of thing. You guys see that one? They were praying to the plants, asking forgiveness for their participation in contributing to global warming, climate change. What does the Bible say? We worship everything under the sun except for the Creator. You know, it's true. I don't know what the plant. I don't know what the plant's response was to it. Probably was nothing. Yeah, well, if they could respond, they'd say, thank you for the carbon dioxide. Here's a little oxygen for you. Yeah. Well, some kids like to rebel just to rebel, but if it has a positive effect for Christianity, I'm willing to accept it. You know, if they want to rebel against the establishment and go out there and pray.